Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee with Jess. To be completely fair, today I'm not having coffee right now. I already had a cup earlier, so right now I am doing tea. I've got some raspberry leaf tea. It's so good. So we're going to talk about something that I think is actually really interesting today. I mean, it's not like I'd be saying stuff that I didn't think was interesting, but you know what I mean. So we're going to talk about being happy, because we all want it, right? We all want to feel like, okay, I'm living a happy life and all that stuff. So we're going to look a little bit into that, and especially I'm thinking we've been talking a lot about making plans and planning for fall and all of that stuff, which is amazing and is super, super good, very fun. But plans don't always work out. And it can be really, really frustrating when plans that we've made and dreamt about and been so pumped up for just kind of fall flat, because sometimes they do. Personally, I've had a lot of things that I've been planning for fall and that are just not going to happen because of various things. You got health issues, you got all kinds of stuff. So what are we going to do when things get like that? It's difficult to sort of switch gears at times. But I think for me personally, I think it's that trying to say, okay, this is my goal. This was my goal to start off with. How can I get there taking a different route? So the plan that I've made isn't really going to be working out. How can I get to sort of the core of what that goal was in a different way? And switching up like that, it can be really, really depressing. It's just sometimes you just kind of fall into the pit of despair and you're just like crying and going, why? Because, we're all human and we all have moments like that. And I don't think any amount of saying, just be positive, think positive, that's just, personally, that just pisses me off. I'm going to be honest. That whole, just think positive thoughts thing, it doesn't always work. You just sort of, at least I need to find some deeper motivation than just think happy thoughts. Although, if thinking happy thoughts could really make you fly like in Peter Pan, how cool wouldn't that be? I think it would be pretty awesome. Tea break, so good. Okay, so, I mean, I think it's important to sort of take a little bit of time and let yourself be sad and feel that loss when hopes and dreams that you made don't come true. But to not necessarily linger in it, because you can sort of get stuck in a loop. I don't know. I'm a huge Jane Austen fan, especially in fall, because watching Jane Austen movies and things like that, or reading the books, there's just something about British stuff in the fall. I can't help it. It's just so romantic, and I love it. And one of my absolute favorites, I mean, I love Pride and Prejudice, and then Sense and Sensibility is, I love it. But, the way that Marianne, for those of you that know Sense and Sensibility, Marianne gets really in love with this guy named Willoughby, and then he breaks her heart, and sorry if that was a spoiler, but, it's a classic. You should know it. No, but there's multiple scenes in this movie and in the book where she runs out into the, let's say, they're beautiful, these rainy, beautiful, mountainous fields, whatever, and just sort of passes out crying, because she's so heartbroken and all of that. And I totally get that out of this is a movie, and it's dramatic, and you just sort of, you feel like, at least I really connect with that movie. You feel Marianne's pain and the despair and just everything. You go, and I think we've all been there one way or another. It doesn't have to be because of a relationship that hasn't worked, or, jobs maybe that haven't worked out, or, different stuff. I mean, everybody's got a different life. But I just, it's really great for drama. And I think we need to let ourselves feel that, because it is healthy to just sort of let it out, but then to not linger in it forever, or expect somebody else to come save us, which, I think the first time Marianne is out, that's when she meets Willoughby, and he comes and he saves her, and then that goes to crap. And then, like, the second time she's out and running, Colonel Brandon, and all that stuff. But I think sort of waiting for somebody else to come save us is not going to be is not going to be that effective. We need to be able to do this for ourselves. And lingering too long in it is not good for your stability, your mental health, and just being empowered as yourself and learning to love yourself if you're constantly waiting for somebody else to come and pick up the pieces. So everybody having a unique life and having, our own situations that we're dealing with, we have to sort of approach things, adapt them for the situation that you are in. But breaking things down, because, I love planning, I can't help it. And I love, I love making points. So we're going to do 3 of them. And we're going to start with number 1, the circumstance is what I call it. And then we have number 2, which is the self. And number 3, the chronicles, because that just sounded fancy in my book. Okay. So we all kind of think that we live a very linear life. We have these expectations that, you're born, you go to school, you get a job, you meet someone, you get married, you get a dog, you get a Volvo, you have some kids, you live, you retire, you move to Florida, and you die. I don't know, but that might sound kind of harsh, but you know what I mean. We have these expectations of this is what life looks like. And when it doesn't quite move like that, we can be really discouraged. And life does not always look like it's moving in a straight line. We might get a great job and then we might lose that job. What happens then? Somebody might get divorced, or maybe your friggin' dog dies. I don't know, but life happens. Tea break. Life happens. And there's so many things that we have control over. There's a lot of things that we do not have control over. So let's start looking at number 1. And this is all of this sort of is trust me, it's going to come together. It's going to come together. But in the pursuit of happiness, if we're looking at life circumstances, the circumstances, number 1, they obviously have a huge impact on how we perceive our own level of happiness, if we should put it that way. How do we relate to our circumstances, though? And which ones of them can we control and which ones can we not control? If we look at, we were talking about how life is not always linear, but we do obviously have the past, the present, and the future, because, time, it might be relative, but it's a thing. So past, present, and future. And of these 3, there's only really one that we actually can do anything about. And yet we spend a lot of our time obsessing over both the future and the past, even though we can't control them, which let's be honest here, that's kind of nuts. If it's something that you can't control, then you cannot control it. And that can be really hard to sort of let it sink in. And a lot of times I think we forget the stuff that is controllable and the stuff that's actually not controllable, and obsessing over it is not going to help us. It's not going to make anything better. It's not going to, make anything worse. So what kind of things can we control? We can control what our opinions are about other people, maybe, but we cannot control what their opinions are about us. So should I really be worrying so much about what my coworker or what that person or this person thinks about me? Or should I be maybe concerned with the things that I do have control over? Like, for example, how am I acting towards them? I mean, obviously that could affect their opinion, but in the end, their opinion of me, that's their opinion, and that's none of my business, not really. The things that I can control is how I act, not how other people act. And I think that is something that we just need to, at some point, say, okay, the things that I can control, I will do what I can. The things that I cannot control when it comes to my circumstances, I need to let them go. And that is easier said than done. I get it. I'm just going to go in a little bit about something that happened to me for a bunch of years ago now. Wait just a sec. Oh. I don't want the tea to get cold while I'm babbling, but yeah. So a bunch of years ago, my son had leukemia, and that's a pretty bad circumstance in life to be in. It was a horrible and it was a messed up situation. Everything just felt really dark and really bad, a lot, which I think is just natural, because there's no way to say that a family going through cancer treatments and all of that everything is going to be fine and dandy. Just you have positive thinking, that is offensive, and it's not good. It's not realistic. A lot of times things were just crap, and it was allowed to be crap because it was. But looking back and in the middle of that experience, I have to say, were there things in my life that I could be happy about in those circumstances? Absolutely. I look back and, I think we had a lot of quality time together because we were constantly 24/7 with each other. So we had an amazing opportunity to be with each other as a family. We had a lot of stuff that was uncertain. We saw friends of our son who did from the children oncology ward that did not make it, and we didn't know what the future looked like, and it was out of our hands. We did everything that we could, but fundamentally it was out of our hands. So in all of this quality time, I remember this one point. We were sitting in. It was night. It was time to go to sleep, and we were in the room at the hospital. It was my turn to spend the night. We took turns. I'd sleep there with him for a few days, and then we'd trade off. But I remember it was dark and it was night, and we took out the bubbles and the flashlight, and me and my son we were sitting in there and we were blowing bubbles in the dark, and then we'd shine the flashlight on them and watch them sparkle all rainbowy, and it was so fun. We were laughing so hard, and it was such a beautiful, beautiful moment, and just the joy, the pure joy of that moment is something that I just held on to. And I look at all of our friends and family around us who just came and supported us. They came with food, and they came with words of encouragement and love. And I just think, was there happiness in that life circumstance? Absolutely. Absolutely. It was a horrible, horrible situation, but there was still happiness in life. So that is something that I just wanted to say. In any circumstance, even if it's dark, you can always blow bubbles and shine a flashlight. No, but I'm trying to say there are things to be able to grab onto and say, you know what, this is happiness right now. It is. So number 2, we talked about the circumstances. That's the first one. Number 2 is the self. So we said that you cannot affect what other people are going to be thinking about you, but you can affect how you can decide how you decide to think about yourself, and you can be in charge of yourself in a lot of ways and not, feel that you are victimized to these circumstances and things like that. Obviously, I'm just going to say we all have moments. We all have moments where things are just dark and they're crap, and that's fine. Break something, lock yourself in the closet and scream if you need to. I don't know. But then, just say, okay, what can I do? What can I actively do? So taking a look at yourself, taking a look at myself personally, and seeing, why do I react to things the way that I react? Why is this making me so miserable? Why is this making me upset? And is this because of something somebody else did, or is it because of a way, something that's a pattern in me, myself? Because a lot of times, speaking personally here, a lot of times I might be upset about something that somebody does, and then I go, oh, you know what? I really have a problem when people act that way in general. And maybe that's actually a problem in myself, in like something that is not good for me. And being upset with them is not going to help, but maybe dealing with my own issues. Because let's be honest, we all have issues. It's not a surprise. It's not something to be ashamed of. We all have stuff that we need to work on. And I think that constant self, what do you call it? The constant self-exam sort of is healthy and is good, because we need to know that life is a journey. Nobody expects you to be perfect from the get-go. That's not going to happen. Nobody wakes up and is a Disney princess from day one, and life is just, chirping birds that understand what you're saying and whatnot. Talking animals are just awesome. The concept of talking animals, I like it. I really do. But then again, at some point, I feel like I'm really happy that I don't have to hear what my pets are saying about me, because I don't really know, and I know their opinion. Anyway, back to the point. Looking back, self-reflection and all of that stuff. How do I act? How do I react to things? there's lots of ways that we can approach this. There's YouTube videos. If you figure out, okay, these are my issues, there's lots of YouTube videos that you could look at for good advice from other people that might have been through the same situation that you've been through, that could help you to sort of figure out a way to move through it and to move past certain things that have been holding you back. There's support groups. There are awesome therapists. And finding a good therapist that you feel that you really click with, because you probably, you don't click with everybody, but finding somebody that you can talk to, if that's a really, really good friend or somebody in your family, or if it's somebody outside. But I think one thing that's really important when it comes to that whole thing about working on yourself and taking advice from other people is to not just take everybody's advice, because let's be honest, you do not need everybody's input on your life. Only take advice from people that you trust and people that you think, okay, I value this opinion. Because some people might be very, very willing to share their opinion about what you're doing wrong, but it might not be coming out of a place of love or trying to build you up. So make sure that you consider the source that you are taking advice from. You would not be drinking water out of a dirty stream. And in the same way there, I would say, do not take advice from people who do not have your best interest in mind, and maybe also who might not. Some people do have your best interest in mind, but they might not be in a position where you feel that they're actually an authority on what it is they're trying to give you advice about. So just make sure to consider the source, and also remember that looking at yourself, and when you're trying to sort of say, okay, this is something that I need to work with, appreciate your intent. Fall in love with the fact that you are trying and that you are making an effort. And sometimes it goes all the way from the get-go. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you have this intention and you want to work on this with yourself, but you have a bad day, things do not work out, and it goes blah. I think it's important to just say, okay, stand up, dust myself off, try again, and fall in love with the fact that you did not just decide to do this once, you decided to do it twice, which is really, really cool, because you're doing something. And finding that self-love and saying, you know what, I do not have control about what other people think about me, but I do have control over what I think about myself, and I am doing actively what I can to be proud of myself. So be proud of yourself. So number 3 is the Chronicles, is what I like to call it. I love planning. I love writing things down. The other day I was going through one of my closets and I found an old journal of mine, an old notebook. And I thought it was so much fun. I was flipping through the pages. It was one of those things where you go, okay, there's so much paper and so much stuff we need to throw out. And I just stopped and I was flipping through it and I was going, I was looking at all these plans, and some of them, were like life plans, and I was like, oh my goodness, why did I want that? I have no idea. Other things I was looking at and I was going, oh my goodness, I have that now. Wow. Remember that time when you wished for what you have now? And I think a lot of times we're like, oh, when I get there, I'm going to be happy. And then we get there and we forget about it. And the only thing that we're thinking about is our next upgrade. When I get the next iPhone, I'm going to be so happy. A year goes by and you're like, well, when I get the next one. Be happy now. Write everything down. Write down the things that you're grateful for, the things that you have in your life. And remember to write the things that you do wish for down, the things that you do hope for, and your hopes, your dreams, your goals, all of that good stuff. So that, coming back, you can look back at those things and go, oh my goodness, look at all of that stuff that I was planning and dreaming about. Look at where I am now. And remember to just sort of soak that gratefulness in and say, you know what? I am happy. Maybe I didn't remember it, but just take that in, because a lot of times we have so many things to be grateful for and we kind of forget. Once we get there, we forget. So sort of grabbing onto those things are things that can make you happy, or can make you realize all the things that you do have to be happy about. So if we summarize everything that we've been talking about today, another sip of my, getting cold coffee because I'm talking so much today. Oh, it's not coffee, it's tea. is what is happiness? Looking at a happy life, how do we define what is a happy life to you? And maybe that's something to put in the chronicles as well. How do you define happiness? What is happiness? And how do we react to the way that other people treat us, to our situations, to everything? How do we react? How can we impact those things? And what things can we just let go because they are not serving us anymore, and lingering on them is just going to make us miserable? What can we let go? How can we impact how we react to things? And also, if it's not in your control, what the heck? Just say, it is what it is. So be grateful, write it down, and enjoy life. Some things we don't enjoy, other things we do enjoy. Anyway, that was sort of what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. And I hope that you have a wonderful rest of the week. And I will see you guys in the next podcast. Bye-bye.